Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I'm the staff hearing officer, and I call the meeting of Wednesday, August 11th to order. First item on the agenda is under preliminary matters, and it's requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or the addition of agenda items. And I've had no requests for any of those situations. So we will hear the order or the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. Under announcements and appeals, I've had no recent appeals, but I do have one announcement. I just want to announce that today is my last meeting as a staff hearing officer. After covering this duty since 2008, I am retiring from the city. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that this will be my last meeting. And so you will see a new face at the next meeting. That's my only announcement. So we'll move on to comments from members of the public on items not on today's agenda. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on today's agenda, you may do so by clicking on your raise your hand icon, and it is the little hand button with the green arrow. You can see it on the screen up there. You only need to click it once and it'll indicate a raised hand. And if I see a raised hand, I will call on you. And you'll have 2 minutes to speak. So if you would like to raise your hand. Seeing no one, I'll close that portion of the hearing. So we'll go to the first item, which is 1801 State Street. If the applicant and staff would like to turn on their webcam, staff will provide the staff report or presentation first, followed by the applicant. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Ms. Reardon. Okay.
So anytime you're ready.
Okay. If we could go, do you want me to read this first? I guess I could do this section. This is a proposal to convert a 502 square foot net residential floor area to an as-built 1-bedroom residential unit in order to abate the violation in an enforcement case. The 6,547 square foot site is currently developed with a mixed-use building consisting of medical offices and 1 residential studio. Go to the next slide, please. Show the site plan. Next slide. If you could please zoom in just a little bit, if possible, to the site plan, that would be helpful. So the project site is located at the corner of State Street and West Islay Street. It's developed with the mixed-use building, Suite A, which is on the State Street side. Suite A is a medical office on the first floor. Suite B is a residential studio on the second floor. Suite C is a medical office that is 1 story. And then Suite D is a 1-bedroom residential unit. It was brought to staff's attention through a complaint that Suite D was a conversion from the medical office space to a residential unit without the required permits, and an enforcement case was created. It is our understanding, though, that this conversion actually had taken place many decades ago, perhaps right after the 1986 approval of the 2-story addition. And the project today is to abate that violation. The base density for a lot this size is 2 units. So the second unit would be allowed on the site by zoning. And the project would meet all zoning requirements except for the open yard. The open yard requirement is not met on site. It provides only 12% of the lot area rather than the required 15%. And the minimum dimensions for the open yard area are less than the 10 feet by 10 feet dimensions. Therefore, the open yard modification is being requested. The project site is constrained because it is located at a corner lot with 2 front yards, although it has had this configuration since 1986. The largest area behind the building has a dimension of just under 65 feet by 9 feet 2 inches. So that's just slightly less than the 10-foot dimension. Staff does recommend approval of the open yard modification because it does provide substantially the amount of the required open yard. Again, it's 12% versus 15%. There is a very large area in the back behind the building, which does provide space for useful outdoor enjoyment. And the location of the site itself is located in close proximity to the State Street Promenade, to Alice Keck Park Memorial Garden, and Alameda Park as well. So staff recommends approval of this modification. Also, in regard to the parking on the site, during a site visit, staff observed that the existing one-car garage was blocked by a parking space, and that the 8 uncovered parking spaces were not configured the way the approved parking plan was approved back in 1986. Therefore, as part of this project, the applicant would be reconfiguring the parking to match the approved parking plan, and also providing access to that one-car garage as approved previously. So that will be done after the approval. Also wanted to note that there are 2 bicycle parking spaces. There is a hitching post located just adjacent to the existing garage as approved, and that will remain, and that will provide 2 parking spaces. In regard to the garage itself, since there would be access to this garage, of course, that would need to be available for parking for the development. And that concludes staff's presentation. Available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any questions right now, but I think I do have questions, but I'll let Mr. Denzel provide his presentation, and then I'll ask the questions. So if you would like to unmute, I need to unmute you because we had issues with your microphone. Oh no, you're unmuted. You're unmuted. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, good morning. This is Chris. And not to be too brief, but my presentation pretty much follows what Kathy just presented. And we've been in the works here for almost a year to come to this day. So that's great. And we do intend to restripe the parking and to bring the residential suite D up to residential code conformance. And I believe there may be a question about the existing garage space, which I think currently is being used for storage. That will need to be taken out. The personal belongings, and there are no built-ins in the garage to conflict with parking, so that can be handled. And I think everything else about this abatement is pretty straightforward. That's my presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so then I have a question regarding the open yard area. The site here, it shows the private outdoor open space to the behind the garage. What is that? The west side of the unit or the building, and then another larger area on the north side. On the site visit, I peeked around and looked back there. Is that area accessible, or is just plainly meets just the code requirement? Because there is that large tree that's shown in the private outdoor area. That one, and then actually the one behind. So Chris, can you kind of explain how the outdoor area works right now and how you envision it to work? Is there any changes?
Well, there aren't any changes envisioned to, for example, turning a window into a door from the residential suite to have direct access into the yard. And I envision those trees being pruned. They probably haven't been limbed or cleaned up in years. They take up a lot of the space, and I'm sure you observed that. So my thought on the best uses would be access by the bike parking area and to the rear area. There are windows in the residential unit that look out to both the west and the north sides of that open yard area. There is openness on the north side to State Street, to that yard area. It's really not developed as a pathway, but it is open in the way that this property shares open space with the property to the north. So the open yard area would really need to be accessed on the ground level and not from the habitable space.
Okay, thanks. And then when I was on the site visit, I didn't see any bike parking in the area where it's shown. There was trash cans stored there. Were they hidden by the trash cans, or are they no longer there? Or what?
Well, actually, they must have been hidden that day when I went out to measure them. They're from '86. They're oxidized steel. They're attractive, and they're kind of the old school hitching post type improvement, and they are there.
Okay, so maybe there, because there was quite a few trash enclosure or trash bins there, so maybe they were just, I don't know if it was trash day when I was there or not, and so they were out, or is that, and that actually leads to another question.
Sure.
Does the scope of this project trigger the requirement to bring the site up to code in terms of a trash enclosure? Kathy, do you know, or Chris?
So I looked into that a little bit. So the approved trash area is, and I can't point it out, but it's in front of the garage to the right where it says electric meters in that area. That's where the approved trash area was for the previous project. I know that there's more bins now because of the recycling and such. I don't know that there's area available for a trash enclosure itself. One suggestion would be perhaps moving the carts bins back into the open yard area. There's no setback required temporarily out of the way, except when they're brought out to be picked up and emptied. But I'm not quite sure whether it's required or not.
Okay, well,
Change of occupancy necessarily. I mean, it's still a mixed-use building.
okay.
So that's.
Yeah, I know environmental services usually checks that out during building permit phase, so that might be an issue that comes out. So the approved plans just show them hanging out in the front there? There's no.
Yeah, there's sort of a little area that's, I guess the way you would drive into the garage would be sort of at an angle a little bit, and they were shown in that area, yes.
Okay. All right. And then and I'm sure transportation staff looked at this. When I looked at, or when I went to the site visit, it was obvious there was the existing garage or the approved garage doors there. They look old, and they're the kind that open. They're like a French door type thing, and they're padlock shut. And transportation staff's fine with that. Again, this project doesn't trigger. It's no new floor area. It's just a change of use in that. So.
Yes, they did look at that and determine that as long as it matches the approved configuration and that there was an accessible way to get to the garage, that they don't require any remote opening or any changes to it. I did confirm with them, yes.
And it is set back from the street, so someone who has to get out of the car to open up the doors, they can pull off the street and they're not blocking the sidewalk. So
that's
that
right.
was just
There's enough room for that. Yes.
Okay. All right. I think those are my questions for now. I'm going to move to open the public hearing. If there's anybody who is in attendance who would like to address the staff hearing officer on this item, it's 1801 State Street. You may do so by raising your hand. And that's the little circle with the green arrow in the hand is showing on the screen here. You only need to click it once, and the little arrow will turn red. And that indicates that you would like to provide comments on this item. And if I see the raised hand symbol, I will call on you, and you have 2 minutes to speak. And no one's rushing to raise their hand. So is Kathy, have we received, there's two Kathys. Kathy and Kathy, have we received any public comment on this item? I didn't receive any, and has there any recently?
Yes, this particular item, 1801 State Street, we have not received any written or emailed public comment. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And same with you, Kathy, you didn't receive any directly?
That's correct. I haven't received any.
Okay, so I'll close the public hearing and move on to my discussion. This site, in regards to the open yard modification. Oh, I do actually have another question, and it's kind of evident by the site plan, but I just want to verify. There's no like decks or anything. Correct, the one, it says second story shed roof, but in terms of outside patios or decks, there's none. I didn't see any, but I couldn't get in the back.
There
There
is a roof deck. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's a roof deck?
There is a roof deck for the second level apartment. Yes. An approved outdoor
Okay.
area for them. Yes.
Okay, so the front one does, but this back one doesn't. Well, in regards to the open yard area, there's a number of purposes for open yard area. One is to provide, relief from building structures on the site. The other is for outside enjoyment for the residents to have on site. This situation, it is in a more urban area. And so the expectation of actually having some usable outside area for enjoyment is less than in a more residential type setting. So in terms of the open yard area, when a person lives in this type of environment, it's more, they go into it knowing that there's probably not the outside area, and it's just amenity that's not provided in the situation. So in terms of the appropriateness of the modification, given the fact it is in a more urban area, there are some areas, like parkland adjacent or near the project site that persons could walk to. Also, being it's on State Street, they could walk down State Street and get outside recreation in that area too. So in regards to the open yard area, the addition of the residential unit, which is actually another high priority of the city when you look at the different purposes of or visions of the general plan and the zoning ordinance, is to provide more housing. So when you look at the different situations, it is a balancing act, and it is appropriate. In regards to the parking, though, I would put a condition on the project that prior to the certificate of occupancy or the sign off of the final inspection for the building permit for the conversion, that the garage be inspected just to make sure it is open and available for parking, and that there's not any improvements or anything in there that would hinder it. And the reason being, I realize there's, based on the staff report, it looks like there's 7 parking spaces required, and there's an excess provided on the site. However, part of the project description was not requesting the conversion of that garage to commercial space. So since it is identified as a garage, it needs to be used as that, as a garage as it's denoted. So I will add that condition, and with that condition, and staff didn't propose any conditions for the project, so it'll be just that one condition. With that condition, I approve your requested open yard modification. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. They also have oversight authority of all my actions. If they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call this project up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those situations would occur, Kathy would contact you. Okay, Chris?
Sounds good.
All right, great. So we'll move on to the next item, which is 3344 State Street. If the planner, Megan, if you'd like to turn on your, thank you, and the applicant, Paul Zink, I saw he was in attendance. Great, thank you. We'll do the same thing. Megan, if you want to provide your staff report presentation first, and then followed by Mr. Zink, that'll be good.
Thank you, Ms. Reardon. Members of the public, so this is a project at 3344 State Street. It's an existing hotel motel that was built in the 40s. The project is proposing improvements, namely to address some existing violations that are on site and abate those violations, some as-built work. The second purpose of the project is to do some upgrades and increase the usable area for the hotel guests, including ADA improvements throughout the property. So there is a new trellis pad proposed, a new pool area, but also new ADA paths throughout ADA hotel rooms, and then also a new parking configuration that should improve circulation and flow on the property.
Just
However,
I'm gonna
these are,
interrupt you, Megan. Will, can you go to the site plan, please?
yeah, page 3 actually is,
Sorry, Megan, for interrupting you.
sorry. Page 3, yeah. So this is the existing hotel. It's kind of in wraps around, the units wrap around the property. So as I was saying, there's also a proposed parking plan layout that would improve circulation on the site. The improvements that are proposed trigger three modifications. One, a setback modification for the State Street frontage, because the existing hotel already encroaches into the State Street frontage, and there are some proposed improvements in that portion of the building, as you can see highlighted in the gray. And then towards the back of the property, they call Building 2, also has proposed improvements, both interior and some minor exterior alterations, also within the setback on Amapola Drive. So we have two front setback modifications necessary for those improvements. And then because of the reconfiguration of parking on site and meeting current ADA and city parking design standards, there's less space to accommodate parking. So that applicant is asking for a reduction of 3 spaces to provide the upgraded or updated standards. So if you can go to the next site plan. Next page, sorry. Yeah. So this is the proposed configuration. As you can see, the parking layout changes quite a bit towards the back. They're also relocating a trash enclosure that was previously in an unpermitted area and putting it in an appropriate area within the parking lot, enclosed, meeting trash design standards and ADA requirements. And then you can see there's ADA paths throughout around the pool, across the parking lot, and then some ADA hotel rooms associated with the upgrades as well. For the 2 improvements in the front and the rear building, building 1 and 2, the hotel is actually permitted with 30 hotel units and 2 residential units, a caretaker's unit at the back and a manager's unit up front. And these are considered residential units. Therefore, it's residential area versus hotel commercial area. And what the project is proposing to do is reduce some of the residential unit area and convert it to hotel lobby use in the front. And then in the back, reduce some of the residential caretakers unit, currently has some unpermitted development in it, and convert it to storage for hotel use or hotel staff use. So those changes of uses within the non-conforming building are what's triggering our modification today, along with, like I said, some minor exterior improvements to those buildings as well. I think that's it for his staff presentation. Oh, we did have a parking demand study. I should add that because of the enforcement case, this project was actually first proposed years ago to abate that enforcement case. It got approved with the same 2 front setback mods and parking modification in 2016 to abate the violations. The project didn't go forward. I can let the applicant speak to why, but since those approvals have expired, and so they're back trying to find a new project that would work. They scaled back some of the improvements and are proposing nearly the same thing, just without any addition to the buildings. So we do have parking demand study that was previously determined to be acceptable. Transportation staff reviewed it again last year in 2020 before the applicant came forward with their application, agreed that it was acceptable to use for this project and met the parking demand for the proposed request. So staff is supportive of all three modifications. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Great, thank you. I have questions, but I'll wait till after Mr. Zink goes. And I saw we lost him, but I just promoted him as a panelist. So Paul, can you click on your webcam and microphone? Hopefully you're back. I did it right.
Audio, I am back. I'm now looking for the video button.
It should be right by the audio, the speaker. There we go. Found you.
Okay, I apologize. I panicked and hit the no audio button and had to reboot.
That's okay. All right. So, Megan, you're probably all, Mr. Zink, we're all in a panic. Megan completed her staff report. So now if you would like to present any other information, I would like as part of your presentation, I didn't see an itemized list of what kind of improvements are proposed within the setbacks. That's always nice to know so that, I reviewed the elevations in the site plan. I think I have an idea of what's proposed, but I want you to go over them so that it's clear of what kind of improvements you are requesting in each of the setbacks. So,
Okay.
go ahead.
To start off, the project was approved and did actually have construction drawings, and they were issued by the building department, and it required tier 3, in which all of the water on the entire site had to be treated and addressed. And there was a solution on paper, and it became very costly. And so that kind of killed the project. And so it wasn't until stormwater management got revised that the project got new legs. And we aren't doing anything to the 2-story building and the existing roof and all the water that runs off the existing 2-story building. We're not addressing that. So I'm thankful that the city did modify their stormwater requirements. This is an exact case where it was beneficial for us. In this case, we're really trying to design, yes, we have enforcement cases about bathrooms that were remodeled without benefit of permits, and then there was some additional growth that happened that we're cleaning up. The goal for the owner is to enlarge the lobby area and create kind of a breakfast spot like you would find at a Hampton Inn or Embassy Suites. And then that can also be a happy hour place for after in the evening times for their guests. So the whole focus of everything is the first building up in the front and the patio area and ADA accessibility. We're modifying the parking and path of travels and all that kind of stuff. And then there was no official trash enclosure when the building was originally built in the 50s. And of course, one was established and found on the site, but it never had a permit. So now we're doing permitted parking on the site. Permitted trash on the site. If you want to know the changes exactly, we are not changing the 3-dimensional shape of the building. We are modifying the windows that are in the existing building. The building was built with permits when the rules were different. Now the rules are, this building is existing non-conforming. I'd like to make the windows larger, change the proportions a bit. ABR looked at it and they basically said, okay, whatever. If we want to go to the elevations, it's sheet 10 of the submittal set. There you go. And if we start at the top, I don't have it specifically delineated, but you can see that there's an archway at the bottom, and that archway I'm making a smidgen smaller. Then there's, thank you. Then there's 3 windows there. Right now it's one humongous picture window. And I just took the picture window and I made it into a different character style. Maybe I'll make it a little bit taller, a little lower. I don't want to change the header height because then I added more money to the cost of the project. But I'm modifying that window and I'm modifying the arch to give a little bit more mass at the corner. When we were at ABR, they said, you know what, you need thicker columns. And so thicker columns means that arch is going to get a little bit smaller, which is no big deal. If we go, let's see the next sheet I want to show you. At the bottom of the page is the elevation that faces Anapola. It's the west elevation. And if we start on the far right, which is closest to State Street, you can just see that I'm changing the windows. If you went to the site, you probably saw there were 3 different window styles all over the place. Casements, sliders, fixed. It was just like, oh my gosh. And they all, like some of them were replaced and some were the original wood windows. So I'm trying to have a little bit more cohesiveness. So I'm replacing windows and I'm trying to keep the opening the same. Then, so you can see the two rectangular ones, like large sliders, and then there's 4 little tiny windows and then 2 little tiny windows. And there's a fence that's in front of that. Currently, right now, that is the kitchen for the manager, because that's residential square footage. We are going to make that a commercial kitchen, but it's going to be a hotel commercial kitchen, which has a different set of rules for environmental health, because they're not a full-fledged kitchen with the grease and interceptor and all that kind of stuff. So I made those windows smaller because I'm going to have kitchen stuff in front of it. So that's the purpose. And then if you walked around the site, you saw that there was a couple, maybe 1 or 2 air conditioners that kind of, okay, I'm going to relocate those air conditioners to where that fence is, but because I'm putting more than 3 together and now I have to do a sound report to prove the sound is going to be minimal. But I'm trying to clean up some of the stuff that has kind of happened over time. Moving further down, there's an existing breezeway. We're going to put a gate in there. ABR was asking about it. This is how the back of house Costco supplies, let's call it Smart and Final boxes, get into the kitchen and then get put onto trays and plates and then get served to customers. So that's the purpose of that wooden gate and the sidewalk that leads to Anapola. Then if you further down, you can get into some of the hotel rooms. You can see the dotted line where I did make some of the windows smaller. Not changing the openings, just changing the windows. Go further, at the far left, you can see where there used to be a single car garage. And just like that project you just saw that Henry Lenny did, where it was the old fashioned, French door type. We're going to put a real French door and we're going to make that mattress storage, because currently if you went around the building, you saw where the trash enclosure was and there was this kind of lean-to shed. Well, that's where they store miscellaneous stuff. And of course, you can't do that in a place on a parking space. So we're actually going to store it there in that building. So that's what that purpose is. The trellis over the top is just foo-foo-ness. So those 2 elevations are what's in the front yard setback. Didn't change the roof. I will tell you, I am going to encourage my client to add chunky rafter tails underneath the rafter, which is already in the setback, but I see that aesthetic. I want to add a little bit of a 1x4 fascia board and a gutter line. So I'm going to clean up and kind of San-Roque-ize the elevation with some chunkier pieces of material. I don't believe that pertains to modifying an existing building, but I am modifying the windows that are in that existing non-conforming structure.
And had to unmute myself. Okay, thank you. That helps a lot because that's basically what I saw by reading the site plans. But I just wanted to confirm. And then the storage area there on the left with the number 2 by it. I was assuming, but I didn't want to assume that trellis there is more like a, I don't know, eyebrow trellis or something. And you said it was frou-frou because I didn't see it on the rear elevation, which says facing north. I saw the enclosures for the air conditioner units or the condensers, but so I just wanted to make sure that wasn't, and that's what it looked like. Okay. And then in regards to the note 3 on that same elevation, the site plan shows it as a gate, and I know it's kind of hard on the elevation to show gate, but you did verbally say it was a gate. Currently right now, the site visit, that area is actually all enclosed. It's not a breezeway, right? And so although it's not listed as a part of the scope of work, that area is going to be reverted back to a breezeway and opened, so no gate or anything on the other side. Is that correct?
There might be a gate on the other side. It's going to be back of house only. Right now, they are using it for landscaper junk room, and so they will be opened up, in which that it's not going to be an actual building per se, because it is a covered roof area, but we want to make it the path to get into the kitchen for the stuff. And then if staff needs to go up, there's a staircase that leads to the upper terrace. And so it is kind of a thoroughfare, and then they've got miscellaneous stuff on the walls. And we'll clean that part up, but it will be open to the terrace area inside the building, and it'll have a closed gate to the street. But
well, the concern being that, and I saw evidence on the plans, although I didn't see anything like in your letter or maybe there was in your letter regarding what I've been here so long, I call it Measure E square footage, but it's the growth management plan square footage, I guess it's called. You know, you're trying to stay under 1,000 square feet, and I see you're just under 1,000 square feet. I think that ADA bathroom that is currently, well, it's part of the as-built hotel room, but it's actually supposed to be part of the residential floor area. That should be included in your non-residential square footage, but you're still under 1,000 square feet. So if that breezeway area is fully enclosed with, like it is now, that counts as square footage, and it probably would push you over that 1,000 square feet. So I, you know, as part of the plan check and review of it, that's going to have to, the areas are going to have to be really looked at. And so, you know, I would recommend, I can understand why you want to screen that breezeway area from the street, because there is some air conditioner units either proposed or they're there now, some kind of screening. But on the other side, it either should be open or maybe open fencing so that it doesn't over time migrate back to enclosed area without the proper review. So I don't, Megan, if you wanted
fine with
to,
that.
or, okay, yeah, Megan, if you wanted to respond or not, it's fine if you don't, but
No, I think that's a good point.
okay. Let me see if I have any other questions I want to ask now before I open the public comment. Oh, okay. So then, Will, can you go to the proposed site plan? I don't know what sheet it is. It's like the
Number 4.
Okay, actually, floor plan. Is there a floor plan? What I want to see is what's in the proposed motel storage. So whoever knows what sheet that is, what the
That's
improvements.
sheet 8.
Thank you.
It's the yellow section. There you go. Thank you. Upper right hand, left hand, right hand.
So currently there is a bathroom installed in there, right? So that bathroom is going to be removed. It looks like I don't see a
Yes.
bathroom in there now. Okay, so
There's currently a hotel room in there, and it'll
Oh,
no
okay.
longer be a room.
okay, that's right. All right, so that will be removed. Okay. Oh, then I have a bunch of questions on parking. Actually. Okay, so the parking study.
Can
So
we go
Paul,
to
did you?
sheet 4 if you want the site plan?
That's
for
fine.
the parking?
Yeah. So there's the parking study, the parking demand study that was attached to the staff report is from the previous project, which is 2015. And it analyzed a proposal that was to remove the 2 existing units on site and then have a total of 35 hotel rooms. And it says the estimated demand was 25 spaces, and that was based on 0.71 spaces per room. Now this project is changed. Now that's like you said, it's no longer going forward. So what's proposed is actually pretty much reverting it back to what the former approved use was, which is 30 hotel rooms within the 2 residential units. And so I have a question that this parking demand, there's different rates for different uses. I mean, that's given. So on site, there's a mixture of different uses on the site. There's some hotel rooms with kitchens. There's some hotel rooms without kitchens. And then there's the 2 residential units, which is more static in terms of someone being there because they're living there. And so I don't see a breakdown in the parking demand in regards to the different types of hotel units and the residential units on the site. And did you reach out to a ATE and ask for any information? I know staff, there's notes in the staff report that transportation staff, looked at it and felt it was fine. I just, since it's a parking modification, I just want to make sure I fully understand what is the demand versus what is the requirement. So do you have any other additional information, Paul, you could offer?
I would say that the project is still at 0.7 parking spaces per unit because the project is still the same as it was before. Yes, there are 3 with kitchens, but the kitchens will have been in there from the very beginning, as well as the 2 residential units that you make reference to. The configuration that was changed was just the parking arrangements and just life in general. Things got tweaked, but the values were still the same. This particular hotel works with companies that come and bring employees into Santa Barbara to do, big work, and they come in with a van with 4 employees and they get 4 rooms. And so that aspect of how the parking has been working over time, the parking study finds that it's an appropriate solution and didn't have a concern with it. So
Now, does the hotel provide shuttle service from the airport?
No, they do not.
Are they planning on it?
No, this is more like Caltrans and Cottage Hospital employees, specialty construction people, as well as touring groups that come through, and they set up and they come through and they'll they'll reserve a chunk of rooms versus having each car is each individual room, and that's just the way that this has been set up and has been established.
Okay, so versus onesies, twosies, it's more of group settings.
It is group settings, and that's the other reason why he wants to have this breakfast bar. And what he has right now is just a little tiny area.
Okay. Megan, did you want to add anything more or no on the parking issue?
Yeah, I did reach out to transportation staff. They review ATE demand rates. They said that the demand rate for the hotels hasn't really changed, and that kitchens doesn't alter the demand rate. So whether or not a hotel kitchens. I asked about the residential demand, and they weren't unable to get back to me last night. They were at city council.
On the bridge.
And Jessica was unable to attend this morning's meeting because she has a conflicting meeting. I know they checked that. I just don't have what the rate is.
Okay. All right. That's fine. That's a good explanation. That was good to hear how the hotel operates and how it's proposed or planning to operate in the future. All right, so those are all my questions for right now. So I'd like to open the public hearing. If we want to go to that slide. So if you'd like to address the staff hearing officer on this item, which is 3344 State Street, you may do so by clicking on the raise your hand icon, and it's the circle there with the hand with the green arrow point on it. You only need to click it once, and it will the arrow will turn red, and that indicates your hand is raised. If I see a hand raised, I will turn on your mic and give you 2 minutes to speak. So if there's anybody who is in attendance that would like to address the staff hearing officer on this item, you can raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, and while I'm waiting for that, Megan or Kathy, did we receive any written correspondence or phone calls on this? I don't have any attached to my report.
No, Ms. Ritter, we haven't received any public comment either via email or written. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Megan, same, you didn't receive any personally or directly to you? Okay,
No.
Great. Thank you. So I'll close the public hearing and talk. Yeah, I did go out to the site and, did the site visit, and your plans sure do have a lot of information on Paul, trying to scope out, exactly what is under my purview, because there's a lot of, as you said, stuff going on, a lot of both improvements and then also abatement of enforcement issues. That's why I just wanted to make it really clear for the record what part of the project I am reviewing. It's unfortunate with the layout of the existing development that the air conditioner units can't be put somewhere else, because, out in the front setback, front yard and the front setback, and being so close to the street, it's not really that opportune situation, but you are screening them, and which is the requirement, and the design review board, specifically the ABR, will be reviewing those to make them look as aesthetically appropriate as they can. In regards to the other improvements on the Anapola side, the addition, it's actually be an addition of the gate in the breezeway area, and the change of the car doors into the French doors with the little trellis above. Those are appropriate improvements, and it'll enhance that street frontage, I think. I know the situation now with the trellis in the little enclosed patio area. That is all as built, but it just seems kind of overgrown to me and thrown on there. So I think that the improvements there will improve the street frontage. And then in terms of window changes, those really aren't a big deal. It's a street frontage again. And then the other improvements along the State Street frontage, I think that'll really enhance the area. Right now, there's the two curb cuts and there's parking there, and it's just all like crazy. Or I think this is really going to enhance the frontage. And I know that ABR had some comments regarding your proposed trellis, so they'll be working on that just to make it more visually appropriate for the street. And in terms of my purview is more of the actual land use, the encroachments, and then their purview is to make it look nice and consistent with their guidelines and fit in with the neighborhood. So in regards to the two front setback modifications, I can find that they are appropriate improvements. In regards to the parking modification, I like the additional information that you guys provided today. I especially like the description that you provided in your presentation, Paul, regarding how the property is used and how it would be used in the future. And I know you've come before staff hearing officer in other times. And if you do have another project such as this and you're asking for parking modification, that kind of information would be helpful, about the operational characteristics of the site, because that's another consideration to take into account. But that'll be someone else in the future. But regarding that modification, it is an appropriate request. The parking modification or the parking demand study indicates that the demand would be met, would be more than adequately met for this site. So in regards to the conditions of approval, staff did not propose any. And as I said, I am going to add that condition regarding the breezeway, that I'll say, at a minimum, the mind blank, the facade or the area into the opening of the courtyard, that either needs to have, be open, no gate, or one that is see-through, like, wrought iron or some nice treatment. Because I can understand you wanting to keep, or the operators wanting to keep people from going in that area, since it is more back of house access to the kitchen area. But there is that concern regarding the square footage. So with that added condition, I can make the findings as outlined in the staff report and approve your project. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those situations would occur, Megan will contact you. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Sure, great. So we'll move on to the last item on the agenda, which is 315 Vista La Cumbre. And I do see that the applicant is now in attendance. So if you want to promote her, Will, it's Haley Koleski. And then if we can do a quick, you can turn on your webcam and your mic real quickly.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can't see you. Oh, there I can see you. Okay, great. So what we'll do is Stephanie will provide her her staff presentation first, and then you'll have the opportunity to provide additional comments following Stephanie. So what you can do is mute yourself right now, and then Stephanie, you can provide your staff presentation.
Great, thank you.
Okay, starting with just the project description here on the screen. The 10,130
square foot corner lot is currently developed with a single family residence, attached 2-car garage, and accessory building. The accessory building is located within the required front setback and was approved with a modification in 1994. The proposed project involves construction of an addition, approximately 60 square feet in size, and a deck for the accessory building. And then the accessory building is proposed to be converted to an accessory dwelling unit. The discretionary application under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project is a front setback modification to allow an addition to the existing accessory structure on site within the required 20-foot front setback. And the environmental analyst has determined that the project is exempt from further environmental review pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines sections 15301 and 15305. And Will, if we can bring up the plan set and go straight to slide 6. All right, so here we can see the development we just talked about. So it is a corner lot. It is subject to that 20-foot front setback across most of the lot. And the accessory building we're talking about is in the bottom left-hand corner. That's the southeastern portion of the lot. And Will, if we can go to slide 7 now. And so the project in front of us today is to construct an addition to that accessory building and then convert it to an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. And only the addition is under the purview of the staff hearing officer. This does not require any kind of coastal development permit. The Single Family Design Board did review the project on April 26th, 2021 with supportive comments. And then as the project description outlined in regards to environmental review and CEQA, the project did not require any kind of technical reports since the project site is not located in any kind of sensitive overlay area. And the project can be found exempt from CEQA. And staff is supportive of this requested modification because the addition is so minor, it's approximately 60 square feet, and it's necessary to meet the minimum square footage for an ADU. This would be considered an efficiency unit. The lot is constrained by that 20-foot front setback across most of the parcel, and this is a fairly logical placement for a proposed ADU to convert an existing accessory structure. And the proposed addition would respect the applicable 4-foot interior setback for the ADU, and the overall building footprint would maintain that existing 11-foot 6 front setback that was approved with the modification in 1994. So the construction is building away from this front setback. And the project area is also surrounded by walls and hedges to limit any kind of nuisance concerns from the public right-of-way. And if we can see that in the photos, I believe it's on slide 3, Will. So yes, this third image from the left shows you the view from the public right-of-way of that existing accessory building. And so we can see it is fairly blocked by landscaping and fences and hedges. And finally, staff received no public comment on this project in the forms of emails, phone calls, public contact at the counter, anything. So that is my presentation, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any questions right now. Haley, if you'd want to introduce yourself and if you had additional comments that you wanted to provide.
Good morning, Ms. Reardon and Ms. Swanson. Thank you for your presentation. I'm Haley Kolosiki with Suzanne Ellich, Planning and Permitting Services, the agent for this project. I also wanted to let you know that the property owner and our designer are also on the call today in case you have any specific questions for our team. So if we just want to go back to, I believe it's page 6 for the existing floor plan. Stephanie did a great job introducing the project and getting us situated with where the accessory structure is located. Since we're on the street corner, we are subject to that secondary front yard setback. And we actually do have a copy of the 1994 modification that was approved to allow an encroachment of 11 foot 6 inches into that 20-foot setback. That's on page 2. And then jumping ahead to page 8, we do have a comparative side-by-side floor plan showing the existing versus the proposed. Yes, so you'll see we're not encroaching any further into that front yard setback. You know, we considered a lot of different options for how to add that additional 63 square feet, and this just made the most sense with regards to the modification request. And only 20 net square feet, I believe, will actually be located in that secondary front yard setback. So if you want to jump to page 3, please. We show photos. There we go. So on the second line, you'll see the existing accessory structure. And then on the third line, you have the existing single family residence. So the ADU is going to be designed to be compatible with that existing residence. And the owner did some neighborhood outreach and talked to their adjacent neighbors. And the feedback that they received was generally very supportive, which was great. And then in conclusion, the proposed ADU is modest in size, will be aligned with the existing structural setback. It's not going to encroach any further or any closer to the street, and is going to be compatible with existing residents and neighborhood. So thank you for your consideration of the requested zoning modification. We're happy to be part of your final show meeting. So please let me or our team know if you have any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any questions at this time, so I will open the public hearing. If we can go to that slide. If you'd like to address the staff hearing officer on this item, which is 316 Vista de la I can't talk. Vista de la Cumbra, you may do so by clicking on the raise your hand icon, and it's as you can see on the screen, it's the little circle with the hand and the green arrow. You only need to click on it once, and it'll turn red. And if I see you with the raise the hand icon, I will call on you, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And I don't see anyone rushing to raise their hand, so I will ask Stephanie or Kathy, have we received any written comments or phone calls? No for Stephanie?
Again, on 4316 Vista de la Cumbre, we have not received any written or emailed comment. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Kathy. So I will close the public hearing. It's to me. I went out to the site and I agree with the analysis and the staff report. The existing screening actually provides really good, or the existing wall and landscaping provides good screening from the public street of the existing unit. One of the concerns with the front setback modifications is the effects the improvement may have on the visual openness of the street, and you know what changes would occur. Although you know the front yard's still part of the private property, it is part of the public setting, so it's important to look at those issues. And I really appreciate the proposal to add on to the accessory building in the rear. So although it is in the front setback, it is getting farther away from the front setback, and it's tucked in behind. You know, one of the concurrent concerns would be, okay, it's getting closer to the adjacent neighbor, although it is an allowed setback. It has a reduced setback of 4 feet since an accessory dwelling unit. But in this instance, there's not an existing structure next door, and it's the driveway. And so in terms of, you know, potential nuisance type things, it goes to the fact that it is an appropriate location and an improvement for this site. So I think those are my comments. So, you know, in terms of the required finding, I can make the finding. Again, it provides an additional residential unit, and in this case, it's a small one, so that fills a need. You know, our general plan envisions a range of residential types, and this is one of them. A small efficiency unit is, you know, appropriate. So, staff didn't propose any conditions of approval, and I don't need to add any conditions of approval to be able to approve the front setback modification. So I'll make the findings as outlined in the staff report and approve the requested front setback modification. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. The Planning Commission also has oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could do so. They could call it up to the Planning Commission within that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those instances would occur, Stephanie will contact you. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And I adjourn my last meeting.
Great, thank you.
Uh-huh.